Tuned to Let's Talk. I'm your host, Stephanie Anthony. It's a beautiful day in the capital city, and once again, we're blessed to come to you. You've heard a little flame and fire this Saturday morning, and I hope you've been inspired. Each week, we come to you with Let's Talk. Today is a special edition. It's candidate day. It is election day. I love elections. They remind me of some very good times, some very happy memories of success. So welcome to our audio voyage into issues that concern you. Each week we touch on a personal issue of the week. We may ask you about your pet peeves. What gets on your nerves? Makes you want to go screaming for the hills. Test your Christianity. In addition, usually each week we will touch on a community issue, something that concerns you and your neighborhood. It may be civic, social justice, environmental, educational, or political. Let's talk about it here and now. Our issue line is 225-343-1075. In the studio today, we have on the audio board none other than Sister Faith.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. I am going to just jump in there and ask you about what your pet peeve is today. Now, you don't have to have one because, it's a beautiful day in the capital city. It's nice and brisk outside, but not cold.
Right.
It's just light jacket, or if you're, kind of cold natured, sweater. A light sweater.
I've got my coat.
Oh, girl. That reminds me of my pet peeve.
Oh, okay.
You know what my pet peeve is? People who want it to be like summertime everywhere they go.
That's not what I want.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just telling you about my pet peeve.
Oh, okay.
And I use, for example, this girl is sweet as pie. Must be about 22 years old. Always cold. Always cold. Summer, winter, cold. Guess what I told her? She always want to put on flip-flops or some kind of sandals.
Oh, that's why she's cold.
I say, put some socks on. She like, socks. They feel funny on my feet. I say, well, you know what? You're going to be cold. But she has everybody else sweltering. You feel like you in the Bahamas. I don't care what time of year it is. She's cold in the car.
Oh.
She's cold everywhere. Air conditioning make her cold. Fall weather makes her cold. Spring weather makes her cold. The chick is cold.
Oh. Well, I tell you, I realize the necessity for the different seasons. And so, I bear it out, but I do believe in leaving the cold outside.
Leave the cold outside.
Leave the cold outside.
Leave the cold outside.
That has been my pet peeve recently. People who open up the windows in the house and it's cold outside.
Well, they're trying to get a breeze through.
No, they're trying to smoke cigarettes.
Oh, is that what they're trying to
freeze everybody else and not take your butt outside. If the cold coming in doesn't bother you, go outside to the cold. Don't freeze everybody else in the house for your own sake.
Don't do that. No.
Or any number, it's not just people who, not just people who smoke. I'm not gonna beat up on smokers.
Oh, I have a joke about that.
They have people who open up the bathroom window and leave it open, or any number of windows for whatever reason. People seem to leave them open and forget that they do with car windows. They'll roll the window down for some random reason, and then it's not till everybody in the car almost has frostbite that they're like, "Ooh, I left the window down."
Oh goodness!
So that's my pet peeve: wintertime window people.
I hear you.
Keep the heat in and the cold out.
I have another pet peeve. People, you're about to cough, don't start coughing my way. You know, cover your mouth. You remember when, well, you don't remember because you're so young, but somebody out there remembers when people used to carry handkerchiefs.
I remember when people used to carry handkerchiefs.
And they called them handkerchiefs?
Yeah, they called them handkerchiefs.
I can go back far.
Men and women.
That's right. And you notice that before they cough, they would take their handkerchief out and cough or sneeze, do that sniff, rub their nose, and put it back in their pocket. Now we have all kinds of Kleenex and disposable things and paper towels and everything.
Now I remember when people actually really carried around those travel size tissue things.
Oh yeah, when they first came out.
Right. No, you don't see people with those anymore.
No, that's not. They don't think that's cool.
That's just like when hand sanitizer first came out. Everybody had it.
Yes.
Now they're relying on businesses to have it inside so that they can use it.
And they always empty. You know, you go trying to milk the hand sanitizer dispenser, and it's always empty.
But you know, point being is that people are kind of just falling off.
Yes.
You know, they're not taking care of themselves. They're unconcerned with how their sickness is going to affect other people.
Correct.
And you know,
and then no, I gotta, you know, this really part that gets on my nerves. They coughing and going on, coughing and hacking, and then you say, you catching a cold, and they say, no, it's just my sinuses.
Now, let me just say.
Oh.
No, let me just say. In defense of some people, some people really do have sinus problems. And there are people who, you know, if it's going on year round, then you have a sinus problem and you need to get checked out.
Since it started getting cold.
But there's some, they are getting up every morning using a roll of tissue, blowing their nose kind of running throughout the day. It gets worse in the winter, but you know, you have to take care of yourself because if you do have a sinus problem and you don't take care of it, then you are going to make yourself more susceptible to get sick.
Well, I'm going to say this, sinus or not, I don't want you coughing on me. Go get a handkerchief. You're listening to Let's Talk. I'm your host, Stephanie Anthony. Today's program is produced by Louisiana Democracy Project, a nonprofit social justice organization dedicated to the people and the long-term best interests of the community at large. Louisiana Democracy Project was established in 1998 and is celebrating its 13th year. The mission is to educate, advance, encourage, and increase citizen participation in the democratic process through active involvement in the community. We facilitate activities which will advance and protect the long-term interests of the community. Membership is open to any individual who wants to join with others to make a difference. I am so happy that today is election day.
Yeah.
So I hope that as people head to the polls, you kind of already looked over the ballot during the week. You don't want to get into the booth and just, have a traffic jam there. I want to send a shout out to all the commissioners who were up at 5, not up, but, they had to be up earlier than that to open up the polls. They are there at the polls at 5:30 on a brisk morning. They can't leave, so they had to bring all of their little snacks, whatever they were going to have all day. And so hats off to them. They're dedicated individuals who help to ensure one of our basic institutions. There was a shortage of commissioners this election.
I didn't know that.
Well, kind of, they've been shuffled. They have more in some sections and fewer in other sections, so they kind of move them from place to place so that they can be able to have enough. They need at least 3 at each polling station. At least 3. Some polling stations are larger and they need more.
Okay.
Yeah. You're listening to Let's Talk. You can join in the conversation by calling us at 343-1075, or you can email us at talkissues@gmail.com. Please no shame letters. You can visit us on Facebook, Live Video, Gawk, Delicious, Bebo, MySpace, Floral, YouTube, Mix, Twitter, Tanga, Ustream as Talk Issues. Now, for those of you who usually catch us on Ustream, there will be a delay in today's program. So, just check back and look forward to picking up the program later in the day. And for those of you who are wondering, is it going to be chilly on tomorrow morning?
I don't know. I haven't been watching the news for women.
The answer is yes. So we're in the fall.
All right.
Yeah. So I guess it's only natural that we, have fall weather, and that we're not the tropics. We don't have to have summer weather 24/7 like my little sister in Christ that likes to have it blistering hot in the building, and she has on her flip-flops. Did you think about what your pet peeve was?
I told you what my pet peeve was. Windows.
Oh, I thought you would just,
No, that was my
that's
pet
for
peeve.
real.
That's for real.
Oh.
That's a real pet peeve. Same goes for doors.
Door.
People prop open doors.
I was going to tell you a joke. Well, it's a riddle. Not really a riddle. It's a joke.
All right.
When you said something about smokers. But anyway, I kind of gave it away. Who are the new street people?
Street people?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Smokers. Because they have to go out to the street to smoke. And it used to be they could smoke anywhere, everywhere. The only place they didn't smoke was like in church.
Yeah.
That might have been the only place.
I had a long-time smoker say to me that smokers used to rule the world.
They sure did.
That's what he said. I cannot remember what country that's in, but there was this video, and you can search it on YouTube of this 2-year-old that had developed a smoking addiction.
What?
Yeah. They had tobacco factories in this country, were the leading source of revenue, and everyone there smokes. And this 2-year-old, they say, his parents say he just picked up a cigarette one day and just was natural at it, and he ended up developing an addiction. It was an internet issue. People from all over the world were, really upset about this 2-year-old smoking. So they sent him to rehab.
Oh gosh.
They did.
And imagine him, terrible twos, falling out, having a fit.
They said that was the case, that whenever they would try to take the cigarette from him, he would just have a temper tantrum, just, cry and flail around on the floor. He was a sassy little kid. It had really heavy stand. He was cute, but, you could tell that he was determined in his way. And, had a serious little personality on him, but anyway, the guy that I was talking to, who had been a long time smoker, he had these filters Filters, they're plastic, and you put them, on the end of the cigarette. They're supposed to, get out more of the tar and stuff that the sponge filter that's actually on the cigarette doesn't get rid of.
Yeah.
And he showed me the box, and their slogan on the box was, "For real smokers who can't quit." I was like, what is this? What kind? And the word "real" was in big red letters. I was like, is it so everybody else is fake smoking? They not real enough for you if they can quit?
Oh, my.
I was like, what kind of advertising ploy is this? Real smokers who can't quit.
Well, you're too young to remember this, but
is this the theme for the day?
No, it's not.
That I'm too young to remember stuff.
Oh, thank you for stopping me. Okay, but you revel in your youth, Missy. Just have a good time in the fact that you're young, and I recognize it. But there used to be, commercials. Cigarette commercials.
Yes, I do recall those.
Oh, really? And they would, have this, like this cigarette was recommended by more doctors.
No, I don't recall that.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah.
I remember the ones with cartoons.
Oh, with the camel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they had others, the cowboy.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There were quite a few.
All right. But we have, progressed somewhat.
Yeah, a little bit. Now, I tell you, and then, then I'll stop digressing, that in Canada, they, on their cigarette packs, they have photos of what could happen to you if you smoke. They have photos of lungs and photos of hearts and photos of low weight babies. It's all kinds of stuff. I was like,
but Canada is what America set out to be. It is. And for those of you out there who are struggling with, cigarettes, they say that it's more addictive than cocaine, but I just want to say these words to you. I smoked for over 20 years, and God delivered me from cigarettes. I hadn't thought to tell this testimony, but my mom had a stroke, and I would go down. I would stand with her at the hospital. I would go down to smoke and come back, and she didn't know if I had been gone for a few minutes or if I had been gone for a week. Because she didn't have any. She couldn't tell time. And I said, Lord, this is just too much. That I'd leave my mama's bedside to go and smoke. And I got disgusted with myself, and I said, Lord, take this taste out of my mouth. And when I went home that night, I didn't, I prayed diligently, went to bed, and forgot that what I had asked the Lord for. The next morning, which was a Sunday morning, I got up and couldn't find my lighter. Because I was in that routine. I was late for my regular service, so I decided we were going to go to a friend of Sister Catherine's church. We pulled in the parking lot, and I looked across, and I said, oh, there's Spears Grocery. I think as soon as service is over with, I'll go over there and get some matches. Still forgetting about that diligent prayer I had prayed. And I get there, and he preaching on strongholds. I'm still, I still didn't get it. So I go to the altar, because I'm going to the altar to pray about my mama. Shoot, next thing I know, I'm on the floor. Delivered from cigarettes. Taste gone. Thank you, Jesus.
But, and one last cigarette story. That's a wonderful.
Hey, guess what? Maybe about a month later, I found like 3/4 of a pack. You know, I looked at the cigarettes and I said, shoot, I'm not going to mess with this, and threw them away. Your last cigarette story.
And for all of you who are struggling, with cigarette addiction, and I guess people, I guess get a little unnerved when you start to talk about it, because they think people are passing negative judgment against them.
Oh,
but,
no.
it's really all about your health.
Yeah.
That's the big concern. You make your own choices, but you want to make choices that are going to allow you to live longer and live healthier.
And I'm going to say this, I really, my mom had wanted me to quit, and I just enjoyed smoking, I thought. But I thought about it later on, years later, about all the times, when I should have been or could have been hugging my kids, but I didn't want to get them burned, and I was like, move out the way, You know what I'm saying, or something like that, or they were all in the smoke. Little kids don't know. So I missed a lot of opportunities to get baby hugs, and so your story, excuse me.
So my dad happened to be a smoker, and I had decided as a kid that I was gonna help my dad quit smoking.
Oh, okay.
And so the first thing I did was make these fake cigarettes out of notebook paper.
Okay.
I colored on them and rolled them up and glued them and made a little pack out of paper.
Wow.
And I said, then you can just put these in your mouth and pretend like you're smoking.
It worked for, how old were you?
Oh, I think I was maybe 7 or 8.
Oh, so it worked in 7-year-old world.
Right. And so, he pretended for a while, but, after a while, this paper's getting wet in my mouth. I can't do that. It was notebook paper.
Right.
And so,
colored notebook paper. With glue. Ooh, that must have been a tasty thing.
But I think, my daddy really loved me for him to
even try it.
Right, you go along with it.
Yeah, right.
But so, we went on this church trip, actually, to, I think it was Lafayette during Mardi Gras. And, all the other kids, they're buying candy and so forth, catching candy, buying little trinkets and so forth. And I saw this vendor that had these real fake cigarettes.
Oh.
So the whole thing was basically a filter.
Oh, okay.
And, supposedly it smelled like cigarettes or whatever, and, it really didn't. It didn't have any smell to it. But I bought them with my little money.
Oh.
And I said, Daddy, look, it's real fake cigarettes.
Real fake cigarettes. What do you think?
It wasn't made out of paper. The whole thing, looked exactly like a cigarette. Like I said, the whole thing was really a filter.
To a 7-year-old, yeah.
Right. To anybody.
Oh, wow.
It looked like a real cigarette, except for the fact that there was no tobacco,
Okay.
So, I gave them to my dad, and so he really gave it a good go for about 2 weeks. Every time I saw him, he had one of those, he was one of those kind of smokers that just let the cigarette hang on his lips,
right.
And wouldn't light it for quite some time.
Right,
so I figured
till he got around to
right,
it.
I figured if he just wanted something to hang on his lip, then this was just as good.
All right.
So
just he could never light it.
Right, and there were only 3 in the pack.
Oh my.
And
okay.
My dad woke me up on a Saturday morning. He said, Faith, I'm sorry, I can't use your fake cigarettes anymore. I said, Daddy, why? And he went on to tell me this story about how he had been working and wasn't paying attention and accidentally lit the fake cigarette.
Oh gosh, did he almost go up in flames?
He went up in flames and almost caught him on.
Oh God.
go to work.
You're listening to Let's Talk, and we've been talking about smokers. And I came across this Sister T. Thank you so much for sending me. She sends me inspirational things all the time. But this week, Sister T sent me a wonderful scripture and little story behind or with it that I think I'd like to share with everyone. The scripture comes from Proverbs 24:16, and this is the New King James Version. A righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again. And so the little thing that she sent me is called Don't Be Afraid of Failure. And I want to share it with you. Star baseball players only hit the ball about 3 out of every 10 times. How do they live with such a high failure rate? By focusing on the law of averages. They know that if they just keep swinging that bat, they'll get a base. In 1952, Roger Bannister ran in the Olympics and finished in 4th place, failing to win any kind of medal, but he refused to quit. Up until that time, many experts considered it humanly impossible to run the mile in under 4 minutes. Yet that was Bannister's goal. And on May 6, 1954, he became the first man to do it. Now runners do it regularly nowadays. What's the point? If you refuse to quit when you fail, you'll ultimately succeed. You just have to be willing to get back up and keep moving forward. In 1832, Abraham Lincoln was defeated for the state legislature. In 1833, he failed in business. In 1835, his sweetheart died. In 1836, he had a nervous breakdown.
My goodness.
In 1838, he was defeated for Illinois' House Speaker. In 1843, he was defeated for the nomination to Congress. In 1854, he was defeated for the U.S. Senate. In 1856, he was defeated for the nomination for Vice President. In 1858, he was defeated again in a U.S. Senate race. But today, he's considered one of the greatest American presidents.
He's so hard, huh?
A wise man concluded, it's a mistake to suppose that people succeed only through success. They often succeed through failure. And you're not defeated until the past takes your focus off the future. So, don't be afraid of failure.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Isn't that nice?
That is lovely. And,
Thanks again, Sister T.
Speaking of which, and next week I'm going to come back to you all with you know what? I'm going to make that a trivia. And
What?
you all have a whole week to figure it out.
What's that?
I'm going to make that a trivia. There is a new monitor, a breathing monitor, that goes in the cribs with babies that helps prevent SIDS. So I want you all, and of course I'm going to look at it too. I saw it on an episode of The Doctors this week, that show The Doctors.
Oh, I thought your show was House.
I like that show too, but this was on The Doctors, which is not make believe.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah. It's a daytime show.
right.
Okay.
Show. And they were talking about this mother from the U.S. that bought this, monitor for her daughter who was living in Australia.
Mhm.
And so, basically you put the monitor, on the baby in the crib, and if the baby's breathing stops or becomes erratic while it's sleeping, it'll alarm and, make you aware of it.
Mhm.
And so, the lady said the first couple of nights it went off, but they had it on wrong. They hadn't put it on right. And they, figured out what they were doing wrong and put it on right. And a couple of months later, it went off.
Mhm.
And, they went into the room and the baby actually was not breathing.
What?
And so, they jostled the baby around a little bit, and finally she
Took
caught
a
her
breath.
breath and,
Mhm.
took this big breath and, she's alive and well today because of this monitor.
Wow.
So, one of the things we talk about, childhood cancer, childhood obesity, all of these kind of things that affect children, but one of the things we don't discuss very often is SIDS,
Mhm.
and it's a big problem.
And so, what do you want them to call in and?
I want you
With?
all to research the name of the monitor.
Okay. All right. So you got your assignment. Research the name of the monitor. Don't forget, today is election day, and we are voting for governor, along with other races. We have running David Blanchard, Lenny Bollingham, Ron Caesar, Carrie Deaton, Tara Hollis, Bobby Jindal, William Lang, along with Scott Lewis, Nikki Bird, Palazolowski, you just said it for me, Palazolowski, Ivo Roberts, and guess what? We're also voting for Lieutenant Governor Jay Darden, Billy Nunzinger, Nungesser, and we are voting for Secretary of State for the unexpired term. One is to be elected. Tom, thank you. Jim Tucker. We are also, you know what? We don't have to vote for Attorney General. Guess why?
Why?
Joseph Kao withdrew, which leaves James Buddy Caldwell unopposed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's from Tallulah, Louisiana, and
Tallulah.
he's a Republican.
Okay. Oh, and as a side note,
What?
for this, say it, gubernatorial.
Mhm.
Gubernatorial.
Yeah,
Did I get it right?
that's right.
Yay! Okay, for this gubernatorial election, if the current governor does not win by this election by a certain margin, this
50
is
plus 1.
right. This is the preliminary. There will
That's right.
be another election in November.
Well, we have another election in November no matter what.
But so,
November 19th.
yeah. So from my understanding,
The general.
if he pulls a high enough vote, this election,
Then he'll be unopposed.
he'll be unopposed.
That's
and
right.
There won't be another election for governor. So don't take for granted that this isn't an important election and that you don't need to go to it because it's preliminary.
Or because what they call an off year.
Right.
It's not, coming up with the presidential election.
Right. Don't take.
Don't
for
stay
granted.
home.
Don't stay
Never,
home.
never take your vote for granted. You remember that person? That we were doing the show then. That somebody won by a narrow margin, like 7 votes or something, and the other person wanted a recount. And I was thinking in my mind, I bet he was like, calling all his cousins. Did you go to the poll?
I bet he was.
Because the recount didn't have him to win.
Yeah. I mean, I remember.
It was close.
It was close.
Yeah.
Down to
Yeah.
I believe less than 1,000 votes.
I believe it was less than 7 votes. That was in one of the outlying towns.
Very close.
Yeah. We are voting for Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry. We've got Belinda Alexandrico. We have Jamie LeBlanc. We have Michael Strand. We are voting for a commissioner of insurance. There are two candidates, Jim DeLeon
I don't have the list.
and Donald Hodge. Bessie Board, District 7. We have Elizabeth Beth Myers, Charles Chas Romer, and Donald Songy. And in Bessie, District 8, Russell Armstrong, Jimmy Guillory, Carolyn Hill, and Domaine Rutledge. And almost left off Mac White Jr. For State Senate, 13th Senatorial District, we have two people running, both Republicans, Derek Babcock and Dale Erdev. In Senatorial District 14, we have Yvonne Dorsey, Michael Jackson, and Christopher Toombs.
We got a couple of familiar names and quite a few unfamiliar names.
Yeah. In Senate District 15, Sharon Broom is unopposed, so I guess she'll have signs that say thanks. Well, you know, sometimes they do that. You know, they get the little bumper stickers that say thanks, and they go and put them over their big signs.
Yeah, kind of like the sold sign on for a house.
Oh.
I don't see that many of those anymore.
No.
I'm digressing. I'm sorry.
Let's see. We have. Let me see. What the State Senatorial District 17, Larry Thomas and Rick Ward III. For state representative, 29th Representative District, we have Regina Ashford Barrow. You know, it's one of those hyphenated names. And
you know, I love a hyphenated name.
You told us. Edmund Jordan. All right.
You're right. I did tell you last week that I love a hyphenated name.
Yeah. Well, here comes another one. For State Senate Representative 16, there is Donna Collins Lewis and C. Denise Marcel and Alfred C. Williams. All familiar names. In State Representative 69, we have Bob Arnold, Ken Dawson, Rob Farmer, Kenny Havert, Ronnie Jett.
We got a lot of people running. This is a big ballot.
It is.
This is a big. I printed it out. There's a good 3 pages.
Well, that's why I suggested that kind of people kind of make their decisions before they go in, so you know they won't cause a line, a backup at the little poll voting curtain. And I want you to remember, because we're all so used to pushing the cast button, you know, to cast your vote and expecting that the curtain will open. These new machines don't do that.
Oh, the curtain doesn't open?
No.
Why don't you let everybody know what they need to bring with them to the poll for the first time voters?
You can tell them. You just bring a form of identification, a legal form of identification, the same thing you would use for a check or something like that. That's a picture ID. It could be a driver's license. It could be a student ID. It could be a state ID. And sometimes if you don't have anything else, they will allow a work ID.
Okay. What about your actual card?
Voter registration card? You actually don't have to have that.
Okay.
Because they have, they either have your name in the book or they don't.
That's right.
Yeah. And if they don't have your name in the book, that's a problem.
Oh, okay.
You can talk about it. I know where you want to go with that, but save it. Let me just go finish the list of who we've got to, who our choices are in voting, and then the people choices, and then you can.
I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah, I want you to. We have also State Representative District 63, Dalton Honore, Hillary Godfrey Johnson, Ronald Rogers Jr., and Barbara Thomas. For District 64, that's State Representative, we have Barry Elkins and Valerie Hodges. And in the 65th District, that's been decided because Cliff Richardson is unopposed. Also in the 66th District, that's also been decided because Hunter Green was unopposed. Last week he had to make a little joke about his name. His mama named him. Or somebody in his family.
I did make a joke, unfortunately, at his expense.
Yes.
However, that was a very nice name.
He's unopposed, so he doesn't care that he's not going to call the station and say you were teasing his name.
No, I don't think he will. I think he'll take it in stride.
I'm sure he's heard it
People
before.
are going to remember his name because, of course, it's Hunter Green.
Yeah. I used to know a girl that had a radio show, and her real name was Morning Star.
Really?
Guess what her last name was? Her first name was Morning, middle name Star, and her last name was Sunday. So her...
Is that a joke?
No,
Okay, good.
No. Her mom and them put that together. She was
That's
Morning
very
Star
nice.
Sunday.
And I'm glad she didn't change it.
Well, she used it to. She became a radio host
Well, I mean,
in the
oftentimes
D.C. area, I think.
Oftentimes when people get, into broadcast, they're asked to change their name. As a matter of fact,
Well, that was in the old days.
Oprah tells her story about how, they wanted her to change her name. They wanted, well, what would it be like if I wasn't called Oprah?
Oh, my. That would be something. Look, we're also voting in District 67. To elect one, we have Lori Burgess and Pat Smith. Two familiar names. Now, 68 is unopposed, 69 is unopposed, but 70, State Representative District 70, there's Greg Baldwin and Franklin Foyle.
Okay.
All right, then in District 101, that's the new district, there is Tiffany Foxworthy, Sarah Holliday, Jonathan Holloway Sr., Edward Ted James, Frederick Fred Reed, Harold Williams. And guess what? We have to vote for sheriff. That's Sid Gotro and Mark Milligan.
Yeah, I've been seeing the commercials.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a serious runoff going on.
Clerk of court, we is unopposed. Assessor, unopposed. The assessor is the clerk.
I'm wondering if the next election is going to be similar with all these unopposed positions, or if this was kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime chance.
Well,
where you fit in.
The next election, is the runoff.
No. What I mean, 2 years from now.
Oh, all right. Mama. Well, you young folk got to get with it. Get with the getter. We're electing a coroner. There's William Bo Clark running. Shannon Cooper, and Shannon Cooper is a man. And Eric Teschke.
I don't want to get it wrong. I do not know.
So leave it like I left it. And in the city of Zachary, they are voting for a chief of police. That's in your neck of the woods. Running is David Brown, David Courtney, and David McDavid. It's like they made that up, right?
Wow.
3 Davids and a half. It's true. You thought I made that up, huh? It's David Brown, David Courtney, and David McDavid running for the city's chief of police in the city of Zachary.
That's a lot of Davids.
I agree.
There's a lot of Davids.
You're listening to Let's Talk, and we've just updated you a bit on what's on the ballot, so that you know what what to expect, just in case you didn't pull anything from the newspapers.
And just in case, you all have a little time left to go to the Secretary of State website. That's www.sos.la.gov, and you can get your ballot to be able to see exactly who's running in your area. You know, I know some of you may be in outlying parishes, some of you, maybe here in Baton Rouge, but still registered in another parish, and you need to know who's running in your area. This is not just important for this particular election, but for every election. You know, a lot of times it's difficult to keep track of who's running for not positions that aren't that big.
Yes.
You know, it's easy to find out who's running for governor, but not necessarily as easy to find out, who's running for coroner. So, when you want to know, get on the Secretary of State website. Also, it's important, especially when they're redistricting, to find out if your polling place is still in the same building, still in the same place.
Yes. Thank you so much. And most importantly, go out and vote. We have heavy hearts today, including in the Let's Talk family. Thomas Alvin Hall, his services will be today, his final services. He was a strength and conditioning coach. He died at 1:45 on Sunday, October the 16th, in an automobile train accident. He was 38 years old and a resident and native of Baton Rouge. His wake service were held yesterday at Beech Grove Baptist Church, and religious services will be held today at the F.G. Clark Activity Center, known as the Mini Dome, today at 10 a.m., conducted by Reverend John Bowman. Interment is a Southern Memorial Gardens. The repast is to be held at the Louisiana Leadership Institute at 5763 Hooper Road in Baton Rouge, 70811. Our condolences go out to the Hall family, and for many of our regular listeners, you know that my pastor is Elder Marshall Hall, the grandfather of Thomas Zeus Hall. He was a delightful person, and guess what? Graduated from Capital Senior High School. May red and gold forever wait for thee.
Every time you always manage to slide in a shout out to Capital.
Well, for those of you who knew Thomas, he was just a big, gentle giant, and he walked and looked with the majesty of a lion. There is power in the pride, and of course, all red and gold alumni are proud. But of course, not only was Thomas alumni of Capital Senior High School, but also of Southern University, where he worked for 14 years before transferring to Alcorn State University. And so we all will miss him, and we need to bring his family up in prayer, daily prayer, and as the days, weeks, and months go by, remember them. You've been listening to Let's Talk. I'm your host, Stephanie Anthony. Join us again next week for another edition of Let's Talk.
The Giant Killer, Power 94.9.
No, how can equipment failure be your fault?